to be a world record holder?
Well, thank you very much. Still hasn't quite settled all the way in. I got the indoor world record this spring, and this one I definitely met a lot more. It was one that I've been after for a long, long time, and so it still hasn't quite set in. But to do it at the new Hayward field, where I kind of had some of my first track meets growing up, was really special. And I haven't been home since 2019. It's been a challenging year and a half almost at this point. So first time back home since 2019. It felt really special to be here in front of friends and family, and I felt like it was a great opportunity, and it all came together to showcase all the hard work and dedication that I've committed during this past COVID year and beyond. But so it still hasn't quite settled in, but yeah, it definitely means a lot.
Another question from Tyler here. Can you break down your world record throw for us from start to finish?
Yeah, so qualifying went perfectly. I mean, 22.92, my second farthest throw ever from a static start. So I knew I was in really good shape and a big throw was there. And those first 3 rounds, I felt like I was towing the line on getting a big one, and was just a little bit tight. And so I finally, every time I was just telling myself, go a little bit slower and be a little bit more patient out of the back, and finally timed that one up. And as soon as I set myself up and kind of found my position out the back and attacked through the finish, I knew that it was good. I think if you watch the video, you can see me celebrate at the moment it left my hand. I think I was celebrating on that one almost before it left my hand. So as soon as I set up out the back, I knew I had the position that I needed to hit a big throw.
Question from Ken Go. Ryan, what did you feel about the response you got from the fans? Did you notice the standing ovation?
Yeah, it was just a really awesome feeling to be back in front of fans again. We've been pretty limited for the past year as professional track and field athletes. And so it was really cool just being in the new stadium, and the acoustics are unbelievable. We didn't have, obviously with COVID protocols, we didn't have a packed house like we will hopefully have in the future, but the acoustics on the field, as being an athlete down there and competing, it was crazy loud for the number of fans, and they're all so passionate, and I think you could tell it meant a lot to them just being back at Hayward Field after a pretty long hiatus. So I want to say just thank you to them. They were into the event from the start to finish. They're passionate, and they definitely helped contribute not only to my performance, but one of the deepest shot put competitions in history. Without a doubt, the deepest shot put competition in history coming from one country.
Question from Adam Kilgore, Washington Post. When in your life did you start to believe you could break this record?
There wasn't really one point that it was like, okay, I can do it. It just was from the time I started throwing, it was really a dream. I think any little kid that does track and field or any sport, you dream about breaking the world record at such a young age. And I mean, there were so many times that I was throwing the 6-pound shot out at the middle school, and I would throw them by myself and let it go and like put my hands over my head and be, oh, new world record. So there wasn't any one point that it was like, okay, now I'm going for it. I knew it's been a possibility, or I've had potential to do it really since 2017. And so it felt like a huge weight was lifted. I've known it's possible, and that almost makes it more difficult. If I had just surprised myself and done it in 2017, I don't think it would have been almost easier, but I've known it's possible for 4+ years now. And so finally getting out of my own way and letting it happen, I did that tonight, and I felt like I was 10 pounds lighter as soon as that popped up on the reader board. I didn't realize how much that had been weighing on me, just knowing that it was there and not having done it yet.
Another question from Adam. The last man to hold the record was banned from the sport for drug use. Do you find significance in knowing a thrower with that history is no longer holding the record?
I mean, it's a difficult question to answer, just because the sport has changed so much since then. Drug testing has cleaned up the sport exponentially. The level of clean competition right now is phenomenal. And so all I can say is that with the regimen of drug testing we go through, I'm happy to say that the world record is under the current system. It's changed a lot. So nothing against the former world record holder. It was just a different time in track and field. And so to now have the world record under the regimen of testing, I was tested yesterday or 2 days ago, earlier in the week, and I'll get tested right after, as soon as I'm done talking here. So it's awesome that we have a 100% clean world record in the shot put now.
Question from Nick McCarville, Olympics.com. Hi, Ryan. What's the feeling of assuring your spot in Tokyo, having had the 1-year delay to the games and a host of challenges along the way?
Yeah, so it was a huge relief just on that first throw. I had a pretty good idea of what it would take, and I honestly did not think it would be as high as it ended up being to what it took to make the team. But I was pretty sure that first throw would make it, and so I went with a static start, so a little bit more conservative, just with the sole goal of being at the Olympic trials to make the Olympic team. So step one was get a throw out that will get me 3 more in the final and make the Olympic team. And so I did that. But it's been such a difficult year, not only for me, but so many people around the world, that it just felt special to having wait a year with so much uncertainty. It was, a really special moment for me and all the guys, because we've all worked so hard, dedicated so much, to have so much uncertainty and a delayed a full year with not optimal training conditions, having to adapt and overcome. It was really sweet to be out there with all my friends competing again at such a high level. So that was really, I think, showed the most how dedicated these athletes have been to persevere, throwing at middle schools, throwing at empty schools, lifting in garages, whatever it might be. There's been a lot of improvising, adapting, and overcoming this year. So I was really happy to see that.
Question from Eric Bull, Diestat. Ryan, a decade ago, you graduated from Barlow. Now, 10 years later, you're back in Oregon as a 2-time Olympian, reigning gold medalist and world record holder. How does the reality of all this measure up to the goals that you were setting for yourself back in 2011?
Yeah, so when I graduated in 2011, it was a little bit bittersweet because I was competing here at the state high school meet, and I was competing with a partially torn adductor, so I was doing a stand throw in the shot and discus. So at least now I've worked up to a full spin and have improved a little bit. But it just felt really special to be back here at the new Hayward field again. And so my goals have changed a lot since 2011, but in a sense they're still similar in that I'm always trying to go out there and throw a personal best. If I can continue to beat my personal best, and there's nothing that quite compares to be able to say I'm 100% better today than I've ever been in the past. And so that was my goal coming in when I was in high school competing here, and it's still my goal now, is always just to come out and be the best that I can be.
Another question from Eric. Obviously, you always thought surpassing 76 feet was possible because that's what it would take to break the world record. Now being only 4 inches away from 77 feet, how ambitious or realistic is that goal this summer or at some point in your career?
Yeah, so for me, it's always, like I said, about going out and trying to further my PR. So I think I can still go farther. I think 77 is definitely possible, and but for me, it's just continue to work to better my PR. So if we can move up to 77 or even just higher into the 76s, I'll be happy. But I think after today, that obviously the world record throw was a great one, but some of the later rounds and even the earlier rounds, I feel like that there were parts of those throws that I liked a little bit more, and there's still room to improve. So that's what is going to keep me going, and I'm excited for the Olympics because that was still nowhere near the perfect throw.
Question from Ryan Thorburn, the registered guard. Ryan, it looks like you knew immediately that your 4th attempt was a world record. How would you describe that feeling and what the record means to you?
Yeah, so I didn't know it was a world record, but I knew it was a good one. And so the second it left my hand, even before it left my hand, I knew it was good. And as on the reverse, my right foot landed right in front of the toe board, and I knew that was going to be I saved it and it was going to be a good throw. And so that was the moment that I knew it was going to be close. And then when it popped up, it was actually a little bit further than I thought. Throwing from the ring, with it being that level, it's a little bit hard to guess where it's actually really hard to guess how far it is. You can just see it's over 22 by a chunk. So I think the people in the stands probably had a better idea of how far it was before I did. Then to see that pop up, not only 23, but to see over 23:30 pop up on the reader board was really special, just because I've been after that for a long, long time.
Question from Karen Rosen, USA. Question for Ryan. How old were you when you used to pretend you were beating Randy Barnes?
So that was starting young. So in sixth grade. So I would have been 10, maybe 11, throwing. And for me, it was always we used to have an old DVD formatted of old Super 8 tapes, and it had Randy Barnes on it, and it had Ulf Timmerman's 2306, and also his 2247 or 48, his Olympic record throw. And I watched, as a glider at that time, I watched that throw over and over again. And so it was always, and then I'd be out at practice with my dad in Oregon in the rain in April, 40 degrees and raining. And it was always Ulf Timmerman and Randy Barnes were the two that I was always trying to beat, because they were I'd watch Randy Barnes' film because it was the world record, but I watched Ulf Timmerman's film because that was the technique I was trying to copy when I was still gliding. And so there was lots and lots of throws, and my dad would always do it that my best throw from the practice would be the marker, then that was always Randy Barnes or Ulf Timmerman. And then on the last throw of practice, I had to beat that. So I got used to coming from behind. And yeah, I don't know how many times I beat Ulf Timmerman or Randy Barnes in practice in that sense. And usually that was the world record mark at the time. So it feels good to finally do it after doing it thousands of times in practice.
Question from AJ. Ryan, you said it felt like a weight was lifted once you got the world record. Can you describe what it took for you to get to this moment?
Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work and dedication, but I feel like the biggest thing that to finally get to the world record was kind of getting out of my own way and letting it happen. The most difficult thing that I've had trouble with is when I know that I can do it and trying to make myself do it. And so I felt really confident coming in, but it wasn't an expectation. I would say the times that I've expected to throw over 23 or throw the world record, I've come up a little bit short, and that's just me getting a little bit tight and trying to force it. And so I felt like I stayed loose, I stayed relaxed, and executed my game plan that I had coming in. And that was a key for me finally doing it, was not trying to force it, but letting it happen.
Question from Travis Tyke from KOIN Portland. What was it like to accomplish the world record in front of your family?
It was really special. I mean, coming from a family that is big into track and field, that makes it mean even more, just because they're able to not only be here and support me, but also they can appreciate the amount of hard work and effort that went into it. And it's very special. I mean, I have the family that I have here, short of my parents and my brother, I haven't seen since Christmas 2019. So this is my first time seeing them, and so that definitely even made it more special.
And then another question from Travis. How does the new Hayward Stadium compare to the old one?
Yeah, so the new Hayward Stadium is unbelievable. I've been lucky enough to travel around the world at some of the greatest track stadiums around the whole planet, and Hayward would rival any of them, and I would put it at the very top. And the coolest thing is that you can see inspiration from there's definitely some inspiration from Zurich as well, but they really kept the old Hayward Stadium feel, and you didn't feel like you lost that. So that was really cool. And I mean, what makes Hayward special is not just a phenomenal stadium, it's the fans. I mean, Tracktown USA for a reason, and so that was really cool to see. The pandemic has definitely pushed people apart, and with socially distanced, it was cool to see people start to come together. And Hayward Field has the most passionate fans, and they definitely have not lost that.
Question from Naya. We know you can do some eating. What's the celebratory dinner menu for tonight?
Shoot, I gotta get through media, get through drug testing, and then we'll see what's open at that point. So my options might be a little bit limited, but I'm probably gonna go for just a big old double hamburger somewhere.
Sounds good. Thomas Stepp, can you talk about being out there with fellow Longhorn Trip Peperi and what you saw from him today?
Yeah, so Trip is definitely, he's a good competitor, and he's a younger up and coming guy. It's a totally different totally different feeling going from the collegiate season into kind of what is the start of the pro season. And so he's had a phenomenal year, and he's come back from a lot. I mean, he had blew out his ankle, had ankle surgery, and then went from hardly being able to walk to being able to throw in 2 weeks before NCs and managed a second place finish there. And he got my school record indoors. So he has had a phenomenal season. And I mean, he started going at it in January. And so for him to even hang on this long, it's just a different game for the college kids because they're peaking for NCAA indoors and then NCAA outdoors. And then this is kind of the cherry on top. So I know he probably didn't have the day he quite wanted in the finals, but it was a great opportunity for him to learn, compete against the big guys. And he competed well. He threw his farthest throw outdoors in qualifying. And I think that was, I would imagine, his goal. If I was in his shoes, the goal would definitely be survive qualifying, come back in the final. And so he's had a phenomenal season filled with a lot of adversity that he's overcome. So congratulations, definitely go out to him on that. And looking forward to see what he can do next year as he gets a big block in and can get healthy again.
Question from Ayako O. You mentioned that you use some video technology for analyzing your throw. Could you tell us what that is and how much it helped you?
Yeah, so I do a lot of filming on my own, and a lot of my throws have been on my own this year. And so that's usually just putting an iPhone in my Nike shoe and putting it on a chair behind the ring. And so the technology that we've used that I really like is Volcam. It's a 3-camera system. So you kind of get a front, side, and a back view, and it really helps to visualize in all three. So all 3 dimensions really, instead of just watching from the back or from the side. And so for me at this point, I'm not trying to really reinvent my throw or revolutionize my throw. It's more about just executing. And so I think it's a great opportunity for younger throwers to learn. And for me, just as well, even though I'm not trying to change anything, just to ingrain the things I'm doing well and visualize the throw and always trying to understand it as best I can.
Question from Larry Eder, Run Blog Run. Tell us about the world record throw. What was good about it? What could you improve?
So that was the setup that I've been looking for. It was a little bit more patient, had a little bit better rhythm to it, and I finally stayed relaxed. When I got out over my left and started to attack into the middle, instead of kind of turning the ball over and trying to add to it, I stayed big with my chest and relaxed and let the entry happen and didn't force it. And so that was the key setup for me. Once I did that well, I knew the throw was going to be good, and then I just didn't do anything to mess it up from that point on. And as far as improving on it, I could definitely have been a little bit more aggressive getting out over the toe board. That's really solid setup kind of led me to be a little bit passive because I knew once I set it up like that, it was just like, all right, finish the throw and don't foul it. And so if I can ingrain that setup, that kind of 23-meter plus setup, along with being more aggressive, finishing out over the toe board, like I did on a couple throws in the series, that those two combined could definitely add some more distance to it.
Another question from Larry. I understand that you thought the ring was fast. Did you change back to old shoes in the morning? How was right this evening?
Yeah, so it's definitely a faster ring, especially from what I've been training on. At Arkansas, we have Arkansas has some pretty crazy weather, and so our ring definitely is on the slower side, which lends itself to being wet. And so going from a slow ring to definitely one of the faster rings I've been on, I brought a fancy, nice new pair of white Nikes that I was planning on throwing on. And I did a practice with them, and it wasn't slipping and falling, but I definitely wasn't kind of gripping like I wanted. And so I had an older broken pair of Nikes and switched back to those after I did a practice out here, and was out here doing drills yesterday during the practice time and warmed up really well with those slower Nike shoes. And so I felt like I was definitely glad I brought them. I think I could have thrown still very well with the brand new with the newer shoes that just broken in Nikes, but I found a system that worked for me, and it definitely paid off.
Another question from Larry. What was your best technical throw tonight?
The best technical throw was definitely the 4th round, the world record, but there was parts of each one that I liked, and I'm still I think I'll always be looking for that perfect throw. I don't know if I'll ever actually get the absolute perfect throw, but there's definitely um, there's parts of each one that I liked that I was nice and relaxed on the farthest one, and the setup was the best. The fifth round after that, that was my only foul, I think, but that one had the kind of aggression and smash at the finish that I needed on for a really big throw. And yeah, there was parts of everything that were there. And the static that I had this morning was at a really, I had really nice double support work. I got to the front, both right foot, left foot down, and really worked through double support all the way without breaking off of the ball early. And so there was definitely things that I can take from each throw and continue to try to improve and work towards that perfect throw.
Question from Dan McQuaid from mcthrows.com. Ryan, did you take that second throw in qualifying because you thought you might break the record this morning?
Yeah, so I thought so I threw my 22.92. That was just not a safety throw, but it was a static start. It was not my full wind and shift. It was a static start, which is just safer, less to go wrong. And the whole point of qualifying is to qualify for the final. And so I did that, and that was a massive PR for my. Usually, I hang around about 22:30 from world champs. 22:33 is my PR static, and so that was a massive PR. And I thought, well, I can put a little bit more on that, and I just tightened up a little bit on the second one. And after that, I figured I knew there was a big throw there, and then I actually went over and talked to my dad and realized that with World Athletics, their new rule, they take your shoes if you break the world record. And so I went over and talked to my dad. I was like, man, I don't know. I just realized that if I throw a world record, I won't have shoes for the final, or I'll have to throw in the fast Nikes. And so combined with that, and it was like the thought process of, all right, I got a second throw in. I cranked up the intensity, didn't go quite as far. It was a good time to call it. And I obviously didn't want to throw without my shoes in the final. So that was kind of the thought process behind it. And they actually did take my shoes. So World Athletics took my shoes after the final. With the new rule that they started is that they take shoes to inspect them after a world record.
Question from Larry Eder, Run Blog Run. You noted that in the qualifying rounds, the ring was fast. Did you change your shoes? How did you compensate?
Yeah, so I think I just touched on that. I kept with the same shoes from qualifying to final, but I had switched shoes from Wednesday's practice to Thursday's drill session. I switched from a new pair to an older, more broken, softer rubber pair.
Larry, again, you noted that there was some good things in various throws tonight. What was the best part of the world record throw?
It was definitely the setup out the back. So I was much more patient, and finally was relaxed enough to really separate from the ball as I came in, instead of being tight and kind of turning it over and cranking that left shoulder down.
And another question from Larry. Will you be going to Europe post trials and before Tokyo?
No, so for me, at least not at this point. Right now, the goal is to repeat my gold medal at Tokyo, and so will pretty much base my training around that. And so I kind of evaluate things based on the question, will this help me win a gold medal at Tokyo? And I can say that Europe probably will not. I need to stay home, get in some quality training, and continue to prepare myself. So I probably will be staying here in the US. I might pick up a meet in early July, maybe just to stay in meet shape. I feel like that the training side of things has been really good. What held me back, not held me back today, but what I can improve on is the meat side of things. I need to get used to relaxing in high energy situations like it was today. It's been a while since I've been on a competition stage of like this with a stadium full of fans, and so I'd managed to do it on one throw. I'd like to do that on all 6 throws come Tokyo.
From Dan McQuaid at mcthrows.com. Ryan, word on the street is that you can throw 70 feet from a stand. Is this true?
Probably not right now. I have thrown, my lifetime best stand is 70 feet, and that was in 2019 before Doha. And I was really focusing on stands a lot at that point. And so I've not gotten away from stands, but tried to make them more athletic. So I do a lot more walking stands now. So a stand throw with a walk-in approach. And so I don't throw quite as far with that, but I feel a better connection with the ball and I feel more athletic. So, and I feel like that helps me. It translates a lot better to my full. So the day that I threw a 70-foot stand, I threw 2291 from a full. So that's not a great conversion. Today I just kind of I threw 20 meters from a walking stand as easy as I could, and felt like, and then that led to a 2330 plus full. So I'd much rather have my fulls go farther than my stands at this point.
That looks like all the questions we have from the media right now. Thank you so much for talking to us and answering all the media's questions, and congratulations again.
All right. You're welcome. And yeah, thank you very much.